Hello all. So what we're going to do now is go and do an oil news update. Let's go find out what's happening with the oil news. Let's go over to the board. Analyst Ted Gordon predicted last year that oil would fall to $26 and that would be the bottom. Since then, and that was back in August, since then oil has been steadily increasing or holding in the 30s. So he says that his newest prediction is that the oil has bottomed out back in August and now is headed up. He thinks it'll be about 50% higher by the time the new correction goes into effect. Though he's assuming that the economy is going to be normal, as he calls it. What happens if the economy truly is crashing at this time? Is his predictions correct? Well, who knows? You know, he's gotten it right before. That doesn't always mean they get it right each time. So it's predicted that oil is now going to go up. But here's something really fascinating that I didn't know about until just recently. So an oil company called that has cut 25,000 jobs. That's around 20% of their workforce. The oil drillers got laid off, but the CEO received compensation worth $18.3 million in 2015. Under his reign, revenue was down 27% and profit was down 41%. So he only got $18.3 million. Here in the U.S. you can't even make this stuff up. I can't believe that you bring profits down and you get a $18.3 million. Something else. Let's go look at something else that's even more bizarre. So this is kind of an interesting twist because Saturday Jeb Bush dropped out of the presidential race here in the U.S. But it looks like the U.S. and gas companies wanted Jeb Bush in the White House. They contributed over $2 million of his contributions. The biggest donors were ExxonMobil, Halliburton, and about 56% of all the industry's payouts that went to these candidates, 56% of them were paid to Jeb Bush. He got contributions from over 75% of the oil and gas companies throughout the U.S. The interesting thing is that once Jeb Bush drops out, all the contributions that were given to him, he gets to keep and do with what he wants. They say there's no such thing as bribery here in the U.S. Think twice about that. Okay, let's go to the next piece of interesting news. Efficiency. So the rig count here in the U.S. has dropped for 9 consecutive weeks. That's 85 rigs down from what it was. That's a 17% drop, down to 413 rigs. But production is down to 91.35 million barrels per day. The reason the oil output hasn't really dropped much is because of efficiency. The oil industry has learned how to even get more oil out of the ground, out of the single well that used to only get a certain amount. They've been able to increase it. Let's go over to the board and I'll show you what I mean. So one of the things that the drillers were doing was to continue to frack and refrack old wells, which brought on efficiency. As you can see here in the back in oil fields, for example, they went from a little over 550 barrels of oil per day, and they went above 750, about 760 barrels per day of oil. So they get a little bit of efficiency here. Same with this one, a little tiny bit of efficiency. So there's a problem with efficiency, is that there's a point of where you put too much money into it and you don't get enough money out of it. And that's what's happening now. They're putting too much money into drilling. So all over the world, both fracking and regular oil wells and drilling has stopped. But the pumping continues. And as soon as this efficiency runs out, you're going to see a huge decline in oil production around the world, meaning that the prices will then rise quickly, as predicted. Now that there's so many places where there aren't any oil rigs at all drilling around the world, it's only a matter of time before we start seeing a plunge in the production of oil, and that will cause an immediate quick rise in prices, both gasoline and other products that use oil. Speaking of gasoline, let's go out and find out what gasoline prices are these days here in the U.S. For an example, here in California, San Francisco, I'm going to go to an expensive gas station and a cheap gas station. Let's find out what the prices are here. Inexpensive gas station. Expensive gas station. And you can let us know what the prices are around where you live. All over the world, doesn't matter. Liters or gallons, I don't really mind. Okay, well let's go find out what oil was on Friday. I appreciate all the comments and the ups and the downs and the new subscribers. And until next time.